All right. Thank you, everybody, for showing up tonight. We have a very, very special guest. Stacy Patel will be on. We're talking private money. And again, this is the Creative Real Estate University Facebook group as well as YouTube channel. Come find us. We're usually on 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. A little special event tonight, so we changed our tune. But keep an eye on the group. We also have several Tuesday night guests showing up in May and June. We have lots of people wanting to be on, and lots of things going on. As you all have asked for more guests, we're bringing them in. So Stacy and I were just talking, and but I want to hand the mic over to her, let her introduce herself. Please, Stacy, tell us how you got into real estate. I love your bio. You have such a diverse background. You've done so many amazing things, and hopefully we get into some of those things. But tell us, how did you get into real estate, and how did you get into the funding side of things?
Sure. I'm Stacy. I would love this to be interactive, so please jump on with questions or comments the whole time. Just raise your hand or jump in. I think it's really important for us to connect here together as a community. And thank you to Shane and to Cindy for inviting me here. I've been in real estate since I was really young. I did my first land deal by accident when I was a young person, and learned that you can sell land and buy it cheap and sell it for a lot of money. And it got me really excited. And I started to flip my way and house hack my way up through my younger years. I bought my first property when I was 21 and just continued that journey and moved, and that was in Arizona, and then moved to California and then started the real estate journey there. I didn't know what I was actually doing, I think, at the time, and then just started to build and flip. The crash happened in 2008, and then we decided that everything was on sale, and we bought some properties and held
Good
them.
job.
Yeah, and then life happened. I got a divorce, so trying to rebuild some of what I had, and I got into the private money space a long time ago. Just wanted to make some passive income and learn about it. Really got interested in wanting to understand it. Started to join some networks, started to understanding private funding, became a certified private money lender, and then decided that, as Shane and I were just talking about, I want to try to be the glue in the real estate investment world about why funding is fun and
Yeah.
how I don't want barrier to entry be fun. And I know that sometimes people feel like institutional loans and institutional money is inaccessible, and so they'll turn to private money. And that is a really great alternative for both sides, the borrower to get access to funding that is not stringent in terms of regulations and rules, but also on the other side of it for people to make a really steady passive income with some extra money. The thing that motivated me to start talking about it with different groups is I see some lack of process and structure and integrity in the private money world as more people from just the real estate investment side and just off the street joining all these amazing networks and mentorships and everything. There's no structure. There's not a lot of information out there of how to do these things. And I've seen deals turn into disasters on both sides. So I wanted to talk to people about how to lend safely as a lender and how to borrow safely as a borrower.
And our group, Stacy, is really made up of almost 1,000 people. Yay.
Yeah.
We're so close to that number.
Growing every day.
A special event when we hit that number, which is going to be very soon. But we have people who are just kind of looking into the real estate thing, trying to figure out how is, they're curious, they're trying to figure it out. We have some people who are doing deals almost daily, right? We have lots of private money lenders within the group. Some of them, again, in that same range. So very cautious, very beginnerish, and people that are in it all the time. We have quite a few people in this community that are right every word you say right now. So thank you. And somehow in your bio, I missed that you started this whole thing with doing a land deal. We're gonna have to talk about that.
Well,
People
Yeah.
talk about how do we flip land? And I want to learn how to buy land. I'm like, I gotta find me someone who's an expert in that. So it's funny that you said that. So that was a hot topic here recently.
It is, and you know what? I really think it's interesting because I think that as there are a lot of people joining the space, there are a lot of people that will sell you a lot of um, coaching and information and networking, and I think that there's value in programs and the people that come before you. I also, in my own learning journey, also find the value in the network in the community. And as you're adding value to your community, you actually don't have to pay to find experts. They're actually probably in the Zoom call, probably in the chat groups. So, and what's your definition of an expert as well? So I think that there is definitely people that are successful at what they're doing, and it's all just a structure and a strategy. And for people not to be scared of feeling like land deals or mobile home parks or anything is inaccessible because they don't have the information. The information is out there. It's just the process and how to gain it. So I think that anything you want to learn, my attitude is, okay, I'll figure it out if I don't know how.
And you kind of said it earlier on the call already, is when you kind of started out, you were, I think you said you kind of stumbled into it and stumbled your way through it, but you did it. Right? You went out there and said, I can make this work. And you figured out the way and you did it. You weren't afraid to say, boy, I gotta take 10 different classes first and talk to people. You went out and you did the deal. So taking action is such a huge part of this. And
For sure.
everybody tonight are all action takers. And I appreciate everybody that's here that keeps coming here. But we got to get some deals done as well as a group. So keep bringing your success stories.
And I think that, I mean, it's also the idea, I really want to encourage people not to FOMO in either, and to make choices that are emotional. Definitely let the numbers and the logic dictate your decisions, and not excitement and FOMO to make some choices that might not have the best outcomes that you're looking for. So really, and if you don't know, or you don't understand, or you want to learn a process, jump on a chat, jump on a group, jump on a message board, write to me. And if I don't know the answer, which I very much might not, I will help you figure it out. I'll find out. I have no problem saying I have no idea. Let's go find out together.
That brings up a very good point, Stacy. How can people find you? What's the best
Yeah,
way to reach you and ask you questions?
yeah. So I can put my information in the chat if that helps. My company is called, I have two companies. I have my real estate investment side called the Home Asset Experts, and I'm a private money lender. And so the name of that company is the Golden Handshake. So we have two different companies, and I'll put my information in the chat, and you're welcome to, sorry, I'm trying to multitask. I can't type and talk at the same time. Homeassetexperts.com. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I can do a lot of things at once, not typing and talking. So there we go. Yeah,
That's the limit. Okay.
yeah, there's my limit. Yeah, my brain is single function when it comes to technology. But yeah, feel free to reach out to me with any questions. I'm a very big networker. I'm a collaborator, just like I was sharing with Shane. I go to at least one networking event a week in my town. I live in St. Petersburg, Florida, but I also go to other events. Not only my real estate association, investment association meetings, but they also sponsor flip tours. My title agent has events. The key to this is definitely networking. Real estate investment is not a single person sport. It is a team sport. The more people you can build in your circle of influence around you, the more partnerships you can make, the more you can learn, the more value you can add. I definitely encourage you to get out there and make connections with people.
So, Stacey, when you're out networking in these groups, what is your primary role if there is a primary? Is it the real estate side? Is it the private money lending side? Or is it raising private capital? A little bit of all of that.
It's pretty much depending upon the environment. I'm a kind of a chameleon depending on what I'm wanting to learn. I went to a builders expo today, and I found a guy who will install a whole kitchen of cabinets installed for $2,000, shaker, whole, all wood. So I found a guy with doors. I made a connection with somebody who's in Georgia who wants to help have equity partnering funding a quad. So it just depends on who I'm talking to and what I want. But I guess I just get a lot of value of watching other people succeed. And I really like to participate in that process. So hi, Patricia. Yeah, so it just depends on what I'm doing. And if you're shy or an introverted person, that's okay. You can go to the meetings and just listen and observe. Find a friend to go to, bring your partner, bring anybody, call me, I'll come with you. Everything is due to talk to people. So yeah, definitely get out there and talk to people. One of my mentors, his favorite thing is connectivity is today's currency. And that was something that I really believe.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's what spawned our whole group. Cindy and I connected, and very quickly we were creating groups, and we're trying to figure out the best way to manage the network group. And we said, you know what, Facebook group works quite well to bring people together and a place to hold everybody. But what keeps them coming back is this type of exchange that we do. We try to provide knowledge. We always try to provide answers. And every show, I always try to tell people, talk in the chat on the side, get to know the people that keep coming to the meetings and the Zooms and the educational events, because they're the go-getters. Find out people that compliment you, and so, like you said, it's networking, right? It's not just finding another real estate investor. It's finding builders. It's finding title people. It's real estate agents. It's, the list goes on. There's people that have money, that people want to loan money. More people, the better. And somebody always knows somebody else, right? We got a phone call today. Someone said, hey, I got this deal that came to me from a friend. It's right up your alley. Perfect. You never know where a connection will lead you.
Exactly. If you add value to your community and participate, and magic sauce will definitely come flowing back to you. In a million ways. I met my best friend on a chat on a Facebook group a few years ago with real estate investing. So you never know who you're going to meet out there. So yeah, connection. Take my email, use it liberally as much as you can. If you have any questions, like I said, and I love bringing people. An amalgamation of people is my favorite thing to watch. And Shane and Cindy are amazing movers and shakers in this space. They are incredible collaborators, and I'm so pleased to be in their presence. They're very inspirational people.
Stacy, where did the golden handshake part of this come? How did that happen? Real estate journey.
Well, I really feel very passionate about funding. I was a math teacher for kids with learning challenges for a really long time, and I really want numbers to be accessible to people. Excuse me, as I was a teacher for a long time, I have a skill set to break complex subjects into small pieces for people to make the information accessible. And I think that funding can be very overwhelming for people at first. How does it work? What's the difference between private and institutional? What is a draw? What are all of these terms? How do you figure out interest only? What are all these terms really mean? And I really love breaking those things down for people and helping them understand, the world of lending, and also the lenders, to make sure that they know how to vet a deal. What are good numbers? What is enough meat on the bone of a deal? How do you make sure that the person's that you're lending the money to is going to be able to pay you back? Yeah. What is paperwork? What does a JV look like? What is a promissory note? What is my state, a mortgage or a title? All of this information is not complex, but there's a lot of pieces to it to become successful, I think, for the outcome that you're looking for, which is to make money on your lending. And that's why we're here to talk about how to become a private money lender, and if you're a borrower, how do you use private money? What are they looking for from you? I think there's a lot of myths and information that I would love to talk about as a community of how private money can be used in a positive way for both parties. Win-win situations, that's a big buzzword right now. And I definitely think it definitely needs to be in that space.
So as you're dealing with private money, one of the things you talked about was the paperwork
Mhm.
and getting paperwork situated. That sometimes is a very scary thing as well, right? So people like, I want to do this, but I don't know that I'm protected. How do people start?
Well, there's a lot of ways that you mean to become a private money lender. How do you start?
Yes, ma'am.
I made a slideshow. Do you want me to share my screen? I have some tips of the trade.
I think I had you as host, so please go
Yeah, I
ahead.
can share my screen. Okay. All right. So let me go ahead and share my screen. As it comes, oh, I have to click the share button. Okay. Slideshow.
Hey,
Okay. Yay. Does everybody see this okay? Thumbs up?
yes, we see it.
Okay, cool. Okay. So I'll go past that. So I do want to just have this disclaimer out there. I am not a lawyer. I am not a tax consultant. I am not a representative of a lending institution. All of the information I'm giving to you is information and knowledge that I have gathered. Please do not do anything based upon what I say. Do your own due diligence. Talk to a lawyer, talk to a real estate attorney, talk to a title company, get your own due diligence involved. This is from my experience. In each situation is different. So please, 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 please go do your own due diligence. Do not believe a word I say. Trust me, but verify what I say for your own situation. So I just want to put that out there. It's important for you to do your own due diligence.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the beginning is just breaking it down. What's the difference between private money and hard money? People say, well, what's the difference? Hard money, I'll start with that, comes from more of an institutional setting, meaning like a bank, but they're not banks because banks can only loan in general to mortgage. Mortgages come to owner occupied. Now, can banks lend to commercial lenders or commercial borrowers like investors? Yes, of course they can, but they're also limited in how many that they can do a year. You can only have 10 loans a year when you're going to work through an institution. Now, some of you may say 10 loans, that's enough. The other thing that you have to think about is institutional money also is income verified, even if it's a commercial loan for a residential space. For a single family home, they're going to verify your income from a conventional banking standpoint. Hard money, on the other hand, doesn't have to follow the same regulations that mortgages have to follow. And the reason is because they are non-owner occupied. And it's very important to remember that in this space if you're going to be a PML, non-owner occupied, it is actually illegal to loan money from an entity, from a person to a person for your mortgage. Now, could you do it from your mom or your brother or whatever? Sure, whatever. No one's going to be looking at that. You can't be loaning to make money off of somebody for their private home. It's against even the federal regulations. Even as a private lender, you can't do that. You have to loan to an entity, an LLC, a C Corp, an S Corp. So make sure as a private money lender, you're making sure that you're loaning to an entity for a non-owner occupied, meaning they're not going to live there. Not only that, their brother isn't going to live there, their grandmas are going to live there, and their kids are going to live there. That is considered a mortgage, and it's very dicey. The IRS might come and slap a naughty ticket on your audit for your tax return, and nobody wants to deal with that, right? Nobody wants a naughty ticket from the IRS. So know the regulations federally, know the regulations in your state, look them up. So
That's a very good point.
Go ahead, Shane.
Stacy, because that comes up a lot. People ask me, why are they asking if this is going to be a rental property? That's why they're asking is once you have an owner occupied structure, the IRS looks at it at completely different, a different set of.
Yeah, and I mean, you have Frank Dodd and RESPA laws that you have to maintain if you're doing owner occupied. So that goes into federal regulations. And that's why hard money lenders do not deal with and cannot deal with mortgages because they don't have the correct licensure either. So they can't even loan to people, and that's why they can't.
Is that why they also, most of them, I don't know all, but most that I've ever dealt with, all want to deal with an LLC or a corporation. They don't want to do personal loans. They want to deal to an institution.
They can't actually, even though that it's private money and there's not a lot of regulations. Investors are very savvy. When Frank Dodd started, real estate investors and money lenders had to scratch their heads and come up with a different plan in order to be able to lend money and, from a real estate investor perspective. So what they came up with in order to be in compliance with federal regulations is, okay, we can't loan to people. If we loan to people, we don't know what they're actually going to do with the money. They might say that they're going to have it non-owner occupied, that they are. If they loan it to an LLC, they're protecting their own regulation compliance. So that's why. So hopefully that makes sense. So yeah. So institutional money also comes from two different places. Either you have, let's say, a hard money lender that's almost acting as a broker. They're going and getting their money from banks. From actual banks, and they're borrowing the money and then upselling it to you. They tend to be a lot of regulations, a lot of restrictions on how you use that. They're very concerned with credit scores, and they're very tight on their regulations of what they're going to loan you for. The other part of that is equity funds that the institution owns themselves. So they own the money. They have private money that comes into a pool. They dump it into an equity fund that somebody manages, and then they can loan the money out. It's called in-house money versus out-of-house money. In-house money is much easier to get. So if you ever look at a hard money lender, ask them, are your funds in-house? And if they hesitate or fuss around or talk about weird things, they're just stalling, and they're not. They're not. They're getting their money from a bank. So yeah. So that's the hard money side. The private money side is people like you and I. We can lend our money either through us as a person or an LLC. I lend through my LLC to other commercial programs, products, meaning residential, non-owner occupied. You can lend on land. You can lend on commercial spaces, retail, mobile homes, manufactured homes, tiny homes. You can RVs. You can do whatever you want. There's not a lot of regulation what you want to do. The thing that you also need to remember is you also have to lend to an entity in order to be in compliance. Even though you're not a bank, even though you're not an institution, you also can't just lend money to someone for a owner occupied and then make money off of that. You can give them money as a loan as long as you don't make any interest. Your brother, you give him money, they'll pay you back. Okay, great. If you make money on it, it's against regulations. The IRS will definitely look at that they'll frown at you, and I don't want the IRS frowning at me. So that's kind of the differences between those two monies. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes,
Yeah.
Stacy, this
Hi,
is
Libby.
Libby.
Hi.
Hi, Libby.
Hey, I have a question. How you doing, Shane? A question for you.
Yeah.
What if can you lend person to person, like for example, lend to your kid, not as your business, like like you said, give to your brother, but like, can you lend to your kid, and they pay you back with minimal interest?
That is a question for your favorite tax advisor.
Yeah, okay.
I, as far as I'm aware of, there are tax benefits actually to giving money to your children, not lending it, giving. You can give them a certain amount of money. I don't know about I don't know the regulations. I'm assuming if they're adult children, and it's for their home and they give you interest back, it falls under the same, regulations that you're not supposed to, but I don't know if this is, I think that what the distinction is that it's about intention to the IRS. Are you lending money to this person as a business to make passive income? Is this supposed to be an investment from you? I think that's where the IRS draws that fine line. If it's an investment, it's like if it's coming from your self-directed IRA or your 401k and you're giving it to your child, yeah, they might look at that as you're looking at as investment income. If you're just doing it from you to your kid, I don't know how closely they're looking at that. I don't really know the laws. Like, again, I'm not a lawyer, so ask your favorite tax advisor.
Okay, yeah, I know as a business, you can only lend business to business. You can't go business to individual. I just wondered if you knew anything as far as like individual to individual, like, parent to child, relative type
If it's
thing.
not about their house, there's a lot less regulations about that. You're just considered a private money lender. So if you want to loan them money for a car, there are usury laws in your state, but absolutely you can lend them money to go buy a car. Sure.
Yeah.
There are regulations
this,
in some states about cars too. So do go look up
yeah, no,
laws and
this
usury
would be
laws.
for a house. This would be for a house.
I would
But
not structure anything on paper personally if that was going to be. I mean, I'm not telling you what to do. Don't break any laws, please. Go talk to your tax advisor. But
yeah,
and if you're writing a big contract with them, just make sure you're in compliance.
okay. All right, thanks.
Sure, Libby.
And as we've heard too, if you're doing your lending from a self-directed IRA, there's also certain people you can't lend to, and that family circle becomes that prohibited circle as well. So I'm not
Okay.
sure what your stance is, but just kind of in general.
Okay.
Well, there are actually loopholes to that because there are self-directed IRAs that are considered checkbook IRAs, and you don't
Yeah.
have to go through your regulatory body for them to approve who you're lending to or investing to. They're a kind of a new product that's coming onto the financial world. They're called checkbook IRA, self-directed IRAs. They do carry a little more fees from what I understand, management fees, but you don't need anybody's permission to make lending. So do look up, Google search checkbook, self-directed IRAs. And that's coming onto the space to give you more autonomy of how you invest your money.
Thank you.
Of course. Okay, any other questions? I'll move on. I have a question. I don't know, are people here wanting to become PMLs in general or borrowing? Which side, who's my audience? Who am I talking to about that? If you could just like chime in or just let me know.
I'm a PML. This is Tiffany. Sorry, I'm a PML already on one deal in Texas, and then I'm joining Shane and Cindy on the mobile home.
Sweet. Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yay. Woo woo. Yeah. You're already a PML in that space. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've PML'd on 2 deals, but I haven't borrowed yet. But
okay.
I just trusted there 2 sets of women in our network. So I didn't do a whole lot of due diligence, so
okay.
I'm here to just make sure I'm doing everything right,
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the one
There are a lot
that
of people.
I did was, sorry, the one that I did was my first time, and it's still out until August as of right now.
Okay.
So fingers crossed.
No, you're still earning the interest. That's good.
Yeah.
And like Cindy and I both have been on both sides of the table, both lent money, and we still do to this day. We were lending money out, but we're also projects, we're out seeking funds. So we try to be on both sides of that. And there are reasons we don't put all of our money into our own deals. We're always out trying to help fund other people's deals as well. Some of it's timing, but some of it is we want to keep our money fluid and be able to close on a deal fast. But while we're waiting for another deal, I don't want to sit there not making any money. So we try to get it back out in the market, so to speak, and making interest again.
No, exactly. And that's a strategy to keep that passive income coming while you're doing it. And I mean, I definitely wanted to touch on this a little bit, and this slide is a little silly in some ways, but sometimes I talk about private money and people get very emotional about it, and they get very uncomfortable because they've done deals and they've worked out okay. And when I offer information to them about a different way of looking at it or perspective, sometimes their reaction is a little strong. So I just want to say is if the information I offer you makes you uncomfortable or makes you feel like, oh, I didn't do that, please don't be uncomfortable. We are all learning together. Sometimes we have to just move forward in order to figure out stuff. And my role in this community is just to try to mitigate risk. That is my favorite way of looking at things. I love to be friends with everybody. That doesn't mean that I'm going to lend my friend on every deal. So we want to use our emotions for friendships and our logic and numbers for making money. So please keep that in the back of your mind that your best friend might not also be your best business partner. in a funding situation. So be okay with saying no sometimes. And I'm going to give you some strategies in order to say, yes, this is awesome and not right for me. So please be willing to listen to what I am saying with an open heart. And I'm always wanting a feedback and comments as well in order to be better at what I do too. So a few things that when you are a private money lender, remember, this is, if you're using this as a passive income source, it's almost like a business. So if you transfer your brain from I am my own investment financial advisor, it is a business that you are running. Because business people who lend money, banks, institutions, they don't do it on bad deals. They don't do it when deals don't make sense. I want you to think about how you want to structure your lending to make it work for you, to make it a win-win. We're all talking about win-wins, and we want the borrower to win. We don't want to lend the borrower money when they might fail. They fail, we fail. So really talking about vetting the deals and making sure that you have goals, that you have timelines, that you have deadlines, that you have this project managed in a scope of work, meaning all of the paperwork and all of the due diligence has a deadline. All of the closing pieces of this and title has a deadline. Getting your money back is all in a deadline. It is all also on paperwork that is recorded and that is official with your title company. This is not a sit and a handshake in the 1800s. We want this recorded and we want it everything on paper so everybody understands their roles and responsibilities. So this is a business. So really use SMART goals when you have businesses. So looking at it from that perspective. This is just a quick slide. I'm not going to go through the whole thing just for timing, but really talking about why do you want to lend money? Well, you could just put it in the stock market, right? But there's risk, lower returns there. CDs, bonds, and mutual funds have a lot less money. I make between 12 and 15% when I'm a private money lender. Pretty good. And I've been doing this for a long time and I've never lost a deal. I've never lost money. So I can't say that for my financial advisor that he's never lost me money on some investments that I've made, unfortunately. So it definitely lowers your risks and mitigates your risk. If you want more control over your portfolio, if you want to diversify your portfolio, if you want to be involved in real estate, but you don't want a hands-on approach, you don't want to be a homeowner, or you don't want to be an investor in that side, it keeps you vital in that community as well. The difference between you and an investment in the stock market is that you have a tangible investment. You have an asset-based or secured investment loan, meaning if the person who borrows the money doesn't perform on the loan, you get their house. So if my financial advisor makes a mistake and buys too low and too high and sells too low, I can't go take his house. I just have to either fire him or make a better choice next time. So you have some tangible assets that you can recoup. So it's a good security there.
So are you telling me, Stacy, that if the Tesla stock drops too much, I can't just pick up an extra Tesla? Get my money?
You could try. I don't know how successful you'll be about that. Elon, hold on a minute, come here. Not really, but I mean,
I don't have Elon's personal cell phone number. So
yeah, we all have it, right? I'm sure it's on
right.
Twitter somewhere, right?
That is the advantage, though, of being the private money lender to a real estate deal. Sometimes you will have that person's private cell phone number, right? You will have their contact information. You'll have that personal relationship. And sometimes you even have say in the project. Sometimes, not always. Every project's different. But especially if that's a long-term relationship and you're working with a partner, a real partner, and say, okay, what type of properties do we want to go after? I'll provide the funds. You go find the house or do the construction work, or there's so many different alternative ways to do that. But it's a much more personal connected, right?
No, for sure. I mean, for me, I have a relationship with the people that I work with. I think that we're all built on relationships. I don't work with people I don't want to work with. I don't have to. I don't work as a job. I work as my own independent, business. I'm an entrepreneur, so I don't have to work with people I don't want to. So it is really a relationship building, and it's not that you might have their phone number. You better have their phone number, or because if you don't and you can't contact them, there could be problems with that. So I mean, the last piece of this I do want to touch on, and I'll touch on it in the next slide, is a lot of people talk about skin in the game, right? I like to call it participation from the borrower. And just like Shane so wonderfully talked about, is every deal is different. You can do a participation in the form of cash or partnership, any type of collateral, which is the house, any type of equity that they're going to put in there. The whole reason that you're doing that is to mitigate your risk and build your relationship and build trust and rapport with the process. So it is really important, though, that you get participation from your borrower. And I'm going to touch on that on the next slide. So this is just kind of tickling your mind about, well, why would this be a good idea for me? How can I get into it? How can I really gain a great passive income from doing this and mitigate my risk compared to the stock market or other diversification? So this is the way that I begin to vet my borrower. I want to reinforce my statement about using logic and numbers and not someone's story, and not someone's emotions, and not somebody's, I just want to help them out. I'm a Christian. I work in a spiritual realm. I volunteer and I give help through my church. I don't give help through lending money to people. The business that I have. So if I want to foster relationships like that of emotions, I just use it in a different way. So the reason that I separate my church and my money is because I'm doing this because I want to make money. Am I helping somebody else? I hope so. But I don't want people to feel, I see this over and over and over again, and I get calls weekly from people in many networks of, I thought it was a really good deal, and oh, they just didn't have the earnest down money, and oh, I felt really bad, and they were a single mom, and oh man, I get that all the time. And it's not that I don't have empathy for the people that are trying to come into this space. I do, but I had to work my butt off to get where I am. And a lot of people, you have to put in participation in order to get there. The worst thing that you can do as a private money lender is give someone their earnest deposit money, all of the closing money, all of the rehab money, 100% of the purchase price. You just keep giving them money. With what security do you have? I have seen it time and time again that even if the numbers work, if people do not have participation in the deal and things aren't working and they make a mistake and they don't have any of their personal money in it, they walk away from the project and you have to go after them and foreclose and spend money. Not fun. Not fun at all. I do not want anyone on this call or ever to be put in that position. And on top of that, I don't want the borrower to ever be in that position. It is painful for them. It is a terrible process. They did all of that work. It is not fun at all. So this is one of the ways, the beginning part of this is, how do I do it? Number one, I build a relationship with them and I insist on a phone call. If someone won't get on the phone with me and they just want to text or email, I don't work with them. If they don't have the time to get on a phone call with me when I'm going to give them $200,000, probably somebody that I might not be able to contact later. So if they don't want to give me the time of day to build a relationship with me, I move on. There's always somebody who wants my money. I have no problem finding that, right? So I have a boundary. We need to talk. I have a relationship. I need cell phones and emails, and I need to make sure that they answer them too. It's really important. I vet my borrowers. Number one, name. That's really silly, but I make sure the name that they have on their ID fits the name on their entity documentation. I get a copy of their LLC. I want to make sure I'm dealing with the person on the LLC. Are they a sole member of the LLC? If they're not, who else is on this? Who's going to secure the loan with them? If somebody is a member of more than 30% on that LLC, I make them sign on that loan too. I make everybody have participation. It mitigates risks for problems in the LLC later if you have all of the members agreeing on the loan. I make sure I get everyone's ID. If someone says to me, oh, I don't want to give you my ID, the privacy, my response is, well, I don't want to give you $250,000 either. Privacy.
Right.
I'm not going to give you money. So if I can't verify your identity, I'm not going to give you any money. Sorry, move on. Like, you can't go borrow money from a bank without proving who you are. So why should I be any different? Get all the information, phone and email. City and state where the home is located. It's very important because that's where you want to have the closing documents, everything done there. But when you are the money lender, in the promissory note that you are filling out all of that information or anything, You want anything done in a legal problem, like let's say you have legal language, if any problem or mediation happens, put down the county, the city, and the state in which you live, because that makes them have to come to you to deal with any problem. They don't want to come to you. If you are willing to put the loan in the state in which the house is and you don't live there and there's a problem, you have to go to that court system. I write the loan from my state, then they have to follow my rules. And if they don't like it, they have to come to my state and deal with that process legally. So definitely a trick that I used or that I learned from a mentor is make sure that you have all the information, that you're closing on your promissory note and everything, that the arbitration or any legal challenges, they have to come to you. And that's always been
That's
really
something you put right in the promissory note.
Oh, I put it in, I mean, in any contract that I have with
Any
them, in a promissory note, in a JV agreement, whatever I put, I make sure that if there's any challenges, I make sure that I have a problem, they have to come to me. I broker loans as well. I work with an equity fund. People come through me all the time. I make sure on all of my fee agreements that I have, or all of my personal PMLs, that all the documentation says they have to come to me if there's a problem. So it's really a good trick that I learned. I've never had to use it yet, but just in case. Make sure you know the closing date. I don't personally like to close on houses where people say, oh, I have 3 days. It doesn't give me enough due diligence time. For me, it's out of my comfort zone. You might run your business differently, and that's okay. That's up to you if you want to take that risk. But for me, it's just not enough time. So I like a good 2 weeks personally, in order for me to finish all my due diligence with them and form a relationship before I'm just going to fork over all the money. Make sure you know what the purchase price is. Make sure that you know if they're getting any credits back on that. And the way I verify the purchase price is that I get a contract. Send me the contract. If they won't send you a contract and they hesitate, you don't have one. I would definitely avoid conversations that will waste your time all day long with people going, I'm gonna find one. I'm gonna find it. I'm really excited. And I know that people don't like to hear get the contract, then the money will follow. They're hesitant to do that. So maybe an introductory call, 10 minutes, fine, but get the contract. It's really important. Verify the purchase price on the contract. Verify the closing date on the contract. It should all be there in black and white. It needs to match what they say. Rehab. Next big thing when they ask you for rehab money. There's a lot of due diligence that I would suggest to do with this. Number one, I don't care if they're going to do the work themselves in the end. But if they want to deal with permit processes, I do ask them, do you need a permit in your state? What do you need it for? Are you doing light, middle, or heavy rehab? I don't personally loan heavy rehab money to a brand new squeaky clean investor. It's not in my business model. I don't do it. Other people do. That's great. I would charge more interest or more points. Please pay attention to usury laws. Every state has them, meaning there is a cap on how much interest that you can get on one loan per year. Every state is different. Please check your state regulations so you are in compliance with your state usury laws. I think in general, anything above 18% is considered predatory, and it is not in compliance with usury laws, even from a state point of view. So rehab money, I get a contractor scope of work. I don't care if they don't use that contractor. What I want is a line item of everything that needs to be done. I get an idea of how long it's going to take, of what their contractor says. Their contractor should tell them, oh, it'll take me 2 months. This is the week 1, week 2, week 3, week. Okay, great. So I can understand the project. I'm not there. I need to know. I have them send pictures. Oh, what did your contract do this week? Okay, send me pictures of what they finished, et cetera, et cetera. Please repeat after me. Raise your hand. I will never give rehab money up front. Repeat after.
Never, ever, ever.
I will ask them to be reimbursed. I am not popular when I say this with the private money lenders in America, I will admit. But I will also say is that I've never been burned on a deal. I've never had somebody say, oh my gosh, the contractor, I gave them the money you gave me and they took it and I don't have any more. And do you know how often I hear that? Often. What I say to them is, if you don't have enough money to do $1,000 worth of rehab and pay that contractor on that Friday, I will pay you on that Friday. You pay him, her, I'll pay you. If you don't have that money, go figure out how to get it and then let's talk and make a deal. That's my participation. I'm not going to give somebody rehab money completely upfront, trust, and when I don't know them, after a time, and I know them, and done 10 deals with me, okay, we'll get it. We'll be same contractor, fine. I don't know them, I'm not going to just hand them money. There's a lady in my network who lost $270,000, and she gave $80,000 of rehab money upfront. She's in foreclosure now. And the house, the lady, she spent all the 80 grand on another project, okay? And she has nothing to show for it. The house is a mess, the demo is done, the rehab money is gone. Bummer. Don't do that. Don't be her. So do it on a draw system. Banks will charge a lot of money for inspections. Great thing, I'm a PML, I don't have to do that. Send me pictures. Give me an invoice, a line item invoice from your contractor or from your handyman. I don't care who it comes from, right? I'll reimburse you that Friday. We have instant transfers nowadays. I can Venmo you, I can PayPal you, I can suck it into your bank account. It is easy to do. If they don't have $1,000 to put into a project, I say to them, I love your enthusiasm. Go find more money, and then let's talk.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is a pay to play game. I kind of like, if you want to go play soccer, all you kind of need is some cleats and a ball, right? It's not that expensive to start playing soccer. If you want to be an equestrian and go ride horses, you need more money to go do that. So go make more money and do that. So rehab. So don't give all the money up front. Do it on a draw system, get a scope of work, and make sure you know what you're lending on. Make sure also that they are going to fix the house comparable to the houses in the area. People, when they're really first starting out, they're so excited and they can't wait, and they put all these really expensive fixtures in, and they think it's going to make the house ARV go up, and it doesn't. They just get less money at the end. They spent more rehab money. It doesn't work out. Talk about excitement and get it all out of your system, and then go purchase things that make sense for that house. If you're not doing a luxury, don't put in luxury things if you're flipping it. So think about it that way. If you're doing it for a short-term rental, unless you're a luxury rental, people are going to trash everything you have in your house. Short-term rental. Don't go for the higher value. So I
always know your market, right?
Yeah, always in your market. I always try to do that. So make sure ARV values that you are getting are current comps as the house is. Please do not lend when someone says, I found a 2-1, and I turn it into a 3-2. I'm so excited. Here's the comps on the 3-2. Don't lend an ARV on something that could be. We don't lend on futures. We are not the stock market. We are not hedge funds. We are people who lend on comps, which means today, in the last 3 months, what sold in my area as an as-is house. The reason is that I insist upon that is, what happens if something happens in the market? What happens if they can't get a permit to make it a 3-2? What happens if they run out of money? What happens if their contractor takes off? Like, there's so many scenarios. Please don't lend on futures, lend on current. And if their ARV goes up, hey, that's awesome. Then they get more money in the end. Great, that's wonderful. The rehab should be the same. That's wonderful. I comp on as-is properties, and there's another reason that I do that. I comp on as-is and ARV, like already rehabbed homes. The reason I do that is that's what appraisers do. If they're going to flip it and they go to sell it to an end buyer, that appraiser is going to come by. They're going to take the 3 as-is in the area and the 3 fixed up ARV properties. They're going to take those 6 numbers and they're going to average them. That's how banks come up with appraisal values. This is secret sauce. So if they're selling you on what something could be, and a bank comes in and does an appraisal and they're way lower than the ARV you told them, you loaned them more money that they can get. How are they going to pay it back? They ain't. Not a good situation to put you or them in. It's really stressful for them. And then they did all that work and didn't make any money. I don't want that to happen. I want them to come out there with like 50 grand and be really excited. Like, I want them to be successful. So I won't lend on ARVs of projections. I lend on today. So please keep that in mind. Look at that contract, study those comps, get on PropStream, get on Zillow, get on Realtor, look on MLS, study those comps. Please only do it in the next 90 days. If you push it out to, if you push it out to 120, okay, but be really strict, especially as the markets are changing right now.
The markets are changing so fast, you have to keep that window very tight.
Yeah, keep it tight. I agree.
So Stacy, you talked a little bit there about, you said PropStream and Zillow. What's your favorite? What's your go-to for checking ARVs and comps?
I use them all, and it depends on what I'm
Oh.
doing. Am I doing vacant lots? Am I doing mobile homes? Am I doing manufactured? What am I doing it so on? But let's say single family, let's just stick in that lane right now. Prop stream, I like sometimes, mostly, because you can get documentation from them. Pretty cool. You can look at mortgages and you can look at liens on properties. I also use realtor.com a lot because you can see that it's really up-to-date data. Realtor.com I like better than Zillow personally, but pick your flavor, right?
That's a great reminder to me. I need to get back out and do another show on how to do comps and look at ARVs, and
Yeah.
we haven't done one in quite a while, and it's a great reminder. That's a very, very, very important step, because me personally, that's my first big red flag I always look for. Is I always ask, what's the ARV? I'm going to go check it. I'm going to verify it. If that number is what I find is completely different than what they've told me, big red flag, and usually it's a no-go.
Well, I think it's also
Why you
ignorance.
say, you said that ARV in this house is 350 and I'm coming up with 285
Yeah.
in ballpark. Why?
Sometimes it's just ignorance. People don't have the education of how to run a comp properly, or they just don't know what to look for. And they're also comping, even if something is, let's say, I say it's only a half a mile away, their house is a half a mile from a river, let's say, or from a lake, and they're comping a house on the lake. That's going to be, it's not an as is. You got to do apples to apples. Sometimes you can't find that rural properties. I have a tip. If anybody invests in rural properties, I talked to an appraiser about how they do it. There are definitely tips of the trade of how to do comps where you can't find them. Well, I think like an appraiser. How is this house going to appraise? There are billions of YouTube videos out there from appraisers that will tell you how to comp rural properties. Get on YouTube, educate yourself. It is not a complicated process. It's just education. So just look up how appraisers comp rural properties with land. If that's your thing and you want to live in a rural area or you want to do it, it's not difficult. Just you just understand in the mind of a bank appraiser. Think like an appraiser. And that, because you're the bank, you are the bank, you better be thinking like a bank. So ARV, she made an awesome point. ARV, make sure that you understand the comps that they're using and that you both agree about it, because it will affect their bottom line and if they can pay you back or not. That's the idea. Profit margins, I don't lend to anybody unless they make 20K or more on their flip, period. I want them to, because if they overestimate the amount of rehab, and if they're new, they will underestimate, they will underestimate the amount of rehab that they go with the contractor. It just works like that, whatever, it's fine. If they're new, I just want to make sure that they have enough meat on that deal that it's not going to cut in too tightly to their profit margins, that they're going to go, oh, I can't pay you back. I only made $800 after I paid the realtor and you. I don't want them to do that deal. I'm going to advise them. They can do what they want with it, but I probably won't lend on that personally. That's not within my scope. I make sure they have, yeah,
That's the two big things, right, Stacy? Is the budget is always going to be off.
Yep.
The timeline, especially if somebody's new, and if you're not, you might want to get a second pair of eyes on it yourself. But timelines to me always tend to be, oh, I can have this thing done in 6 weeks. Really, I'm waiting 4 weeks just for a contractor to show up at a job right now. So make sure you know all these things, and you have commitments. And
it's true. I mean, I write all of my, I do it a different way than a lot of people. I write all my contracts for 12 months with no prepayment penalty, but there's a minimum of what we agree to. So if they say, I'll get this done in 4 months, I say, well, I lend my money out in 6 months increments. So this is what my minimum is what I want. I want to turn my money around, or maybe if it's somebody I've worked with a lot and I know that they're have a good relationship with them, then it's a different story. But a brand new person, I try to have my money working 6 months at a time with them. It's an average time to do a flip. Sometimes you can do it faster, but I think to myself, how much money do I want to make? So I put that in my contract. 6 months, this is the interest and points that I want on it. And there's no extension. It's a 12-month contract. As long as they pay that minimum, I don't care. As long as they keep paying me that monthly interest, there's no extension. I don't want to have to deal with my borrowers as much as possible. Honestly, this is passive. I do not want to chase them. I don't want to have to redo contracts and add points and blah. I don't want to deal with that personally. I write them for 12 months with a minimum of interest and points that I'm going to make. And after 12 months, I write in there, or 6 months, on the 7th month, the 12th month, this is the interest payment. I put it in the contract, I set it and forget it. I don't deal with it. That is my business model that I've developed over time that works better for me. It might not be for you. You have to figure out what works best for you, and that's what you should do. Bank reserves, please, 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 please make sure that they have reserves to pay you back. Please don't loan to anybody that says I have no money. I love them. I appreciate their tenacity and their excitement and their adventure and their jumping in. And please don't loan to anyone without any money. If they're borrowing every single cent from you, you really have to trust them. They're going to pay you back. I don't. I'm not a pessimist. I'm an optimist. I know God's got me, but I want to make sure I live in reality too. I make sure that they have 3 months of bank reserves that they can pay me their interest payments. I ask for bank statements. I don't care if it comes from an investment account or their IRA or their banking or checking or anything. I don't care where it comes from. As long as it can be liquid and they can demonstrate they have access to it. That's all I care about, because I take my interest payments every month. I don't take them on the back end. Why would I do that? I want passive income. I have bills to pay. My kids are both in college. I live on my passive income. I need that money. So that's what I do. I collect every month from them. I can split my points sometimes. I'll do half of from, half in the back. That's what they need. That's cool, man. But I always get interest every month. The reason is that if you don't, and you put it all in the back, and they're 4 months into the project and they bail, you didn't make any interest on your money. It is not a safe practice. It does not mitigate your risk. So I ask for bank reserves. I ask to make sure that they have 10%, 5 to 10%, depending on the person, of rehab money in their bank. Like I said, I do draws with people. If they say I have $11, I'll say to them, okay, you can pay your contractor $11 at a time and I'll refund you that. That's fine. But like, that's going to be a really slow project. So make sure that they have some money to be able to pay their contractors and their commitments. That also tells me that they honor their commitments to people that they borrow money, that they pay their credit cards, they do this, they do that, etc. I'm a bank. I want to make sure that they can pay me. You can decide if you want to pull a credit, a hard or a soft credit pull. You can ask them for a hard credit. They can go pull it and give it to you. It's up to you if you want to do it. I may ask for that with some new people. Sometimes I won't. It just depends on the situation. But if they told me that they had a bankruptcy in the last year, I ask for their credit personally. It's not that I won't loan to them, but I ask for them because I want to see. I don't look at them as a bad person or they did anything. I want to make sure that they're just rebuilding their commitments to what they owe. That's all. And if they're on their way up, I'll lend to them, no problem. I just want to make sure that they're readjusting their way that they're issuing their finances. So that's all. I talk about experience. It's up to you. I loan to first timers all the time. I don't have a problem with it. I do my due diligence and I mitigate my risk by having all of these steps in mind. So that is how I do that. I love experience, but I'm here to serve my community and to help give access to people who don't feel like they have funding. So for me, it is an honor and a pleasure to work with first timers. I have no problem doing that. I'm very transparent and I mitigate my risk. The last thing I want to talk about is your exit strategy. If they are BRRRR methoding, meaning buy and hold, they're buying it, they're rehabbing it, and they want to hold it and refinance it, they're going to need a loan to refinance you. There are qualifications that they're going to have to meet. It's called a DSCR loan. They're going to have to go get it, or a non-QM loan, meaning it's an assets-based loan. It's not based on income. They're going to have to get that. So my response to them, especially first time or very inexperienced new real estate investors, I say, great, this is awesome. Who are you going to plan to go get your DSCR loan through? Maybe they said, I have no idea what that means. We have a conversation about what that is. And then after that, I say, okay, there are seasoning requirements on a lot of DSCR loans, meaning you have to have your place rented for 3 to 6 months before they will refinance it for you. So if they borrow 6 months of money from you, they're going to have to borrow 3 to 6 months more in order to cover those payments to you in order to have everything going before they can refinance that house. So some lenders don't have seasoning requirements, most do. They also require equity in the house. That is why that 80% deal or less, or please way less, is very important, because DSCR loans require equity in the property. They require it. If you don't have it, they're going to have to come up to the table with that gap money to make that equity up to about 20%. Sometimes it's 25%. They don't have it, they can't get that loan. So that's why those numbers are so important, to make sure they have equity if they're going to BRRRR method it. Not as important if they're going to flip it, but a BRRRR method, if they want to hold it, they're going to go get a refinance. They're gonna have to figure out how to get that refinance. They're also gonna have to have something called a debt ratio, meaning they make $2,000 a month in rent. They have $1,000 worth of payments and interest and property taxes. 2,000 over 1,000 gives you a 2x cap rate. 2x meaning they are going to make twice as much money. So it's a 2.20 ratio. Banks require 1.25 or higher in general in this market. Recently, it is going up. Every lender that I talk to, other than a few, are now requiring 1.3. They want to make sure that they can get their money and make sure you have that ratio at least 1.2 when you're doing that. So because you're also you're not making that much money if it's not much higher either. So you want to make sure that there's skin in that, because you want passive income, you want cash flow. $200 is great if it's a passive income for your cash flow, but on the other side of that, what happens if your water heater breaks in that house? You don't have enough money to cover it unless you have reserves. So make sure those numbers work. So exit
Stacy,
strategy is important. Yes, Tiffany.
On the BRRRR with the DSCR, are they doing, it's like 75% the loan too, right? Or are they changing that? Do you know? Yeah.
75.
Do you know?
No, I do know.
Okay.
It varies by lender.
Sure.
75% LTV, as long as you meet all the seasoning and the equity requirements, is average. It depends on the lender. I see more of an average of 70.
Oh.
You can get 75. Your interest rates will be higher.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. So especially if you want to cash out refi.
Right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and in general, most lenders that I see nowadays are 65 to 70% LTV for a refi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Cool.
Thanks.
Okay, any questions about what we just chatted about?
Stacy, I wanted to go back to when you talked about running comps and ARV.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
said, so let's just say someone's got a 3-1 and they're telling you they're going to turn it to a 3-2. You're
Mhm.
running your comps. You said you're actually comping what all the 3-1s are being sold for in that area. And you're comping both non rehabbed and rehabbed 3-1s.
The method to my madness is I want to make sure it's going to appraise for what it should, but because if they're, let's say they're flipping in and they have an end buyer, they want to sell to, it has to appraise. So what the appraiser is going to look at as 3-1s in the area, as is 3-1s in the area rehab, smush those numbers together. There are approximately 6 comps that they take, 3 from each, and they get an average number. That is kind of how they come up with that appraisal. What happens if they don't complete the project, or they can't get a permit, or they decided not to do the 3-2? You just loaned more money than the property is worth. That puts you in a risky situation.
Okay, all right.
Another reason you look at the 3-1 is because that's the house that's there now. That's what you're gonna end up having to take over if the deal goes bad. You know, worst case scenario, you're assuming that they haven't done the construction, the 3-2, the value add. So you
Yeah.
gotta protect yourself that way.
That's a really good point. And it's also in depending upon if you're looking at a 3-1 and a 3-2, sometimes even in my town, like it's a very little difference. Sometimes it's like $7,000 difference on the ARV. But then how much construction and time and et cetera, if they're doing a build out for the 3-1 to a 3-2, make sure that they're going to get their money out, because some houses where I live, it's a $7,000 difference between a 3-1 and a 3-2. And depending on the house, sometimes the 3-1 that are nicer worth more than the crappy 3-2. So it just depends. Yeah, so just mitigate your risk, Libby, in terms of you're lending on today, not on tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, any other, I love that question. Any other questions?
I have,
Yeah.
and I took notes. I interrupted because you were in a flow
Sorry, blab.
about a couple different times. You get your interest rate, your interest only payment, but you also charge points. Can you explain to us what that means?
Points are considered origination points. They are charged from an institutional lending standpoint as well. And basically, it's you want the interest up front. Basically, if you're doing 12% interest and 3 origination points, 1 point is 1% of the loan. So it's 3%, 3 points, 3% of the loan. Basically, you're asking for 15% total, but you're asking for 3% upfront. I consider that participation. Like, I am willing to put skin in the game or money or whatever you want to call it in upfront. So I'm going to say, I'm going to make good on this. I'm going to participate. Here's $6,000. Here's the money. And that's it's almost like a prepayment of some interest that you're asking for. The reason that people ask for those points upfront is because, let's say you are really excited, you get no points, you put them all in the back end. You put your interest all on the back end, you're 3 months into the project and they fold. You got no money, you got nothing. At least if you get some points up front, at least you have some money. What happens if you are 3 months into your project and they default on the first 2 interest payments? At least you got a little bit up front, and because that money is tied up in that house until you foreclose on them and sell it. So all of my money and my time is being utilized. So I ask for money up front. So if I have to go after the house later and foreclose, at least I made something up front.
And you said typically you get all your points up front, but you also at times have split it where you should take
Half and half.
half up front and another half on the back end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
And I also reduce my points with relationships. If I know someone is keeping my money busy time and time and time again, and I don't have to worry about it, I don't have to think about it. I just sign a new contract, send it to title, and it's done. I'll charge less because I don't have to spend time. My money's always making money for me. I don't have to find someone else. So I like relationships with people that keep my money busy.
so give us an idea if you what do you charge typically for points and interest?
12 and 3 is a very standard points right now. That's basically what I ask for is at first just 12% and 3 points up front, depending on my relationship with the person. I also have to pay attention to my usury laws in my state. So some states you actually can't charge that. So please do your due diligence to make sure you're in compliance with that. Florida's usury laws are 18%. So I can't go above that. And that's APY actually. So do pay attention to that to make sure that you're amortizing your loan properly. So if you're doing a 6-month loan, you're not charging them too much. That's why I don't do extensions with points, because that will put me out of compliance with my usury laws.
Good point.
Yeah. Any other questions? Those are great questions, Shane.
How do you find out what your state, like, where would I look to see what my state requires?
It will be in the code in your legislative documents in your state. It'll be probably an ordinance or a code in your state legislative documentation. I would look there, but if you just Google search simply what the name of your state is, usury laws, private money lending, Google that, find out where, what it is. Please call the secretary. Please call every state has housing and budget and financing committees. Every state does it differently. Find out, call the people with the information, get their phone number, get their name, take notes, call them, go straight to the source of finding it out, because some states you cannot loan money privately without a license. So please find out if you can actually even do this. Some states you have to have a license through something called an NMLS. Some states, California is a tricky state. So please do pay attention to what state you're in and make sure you're in compliance. So yeah, just Google it, and it's not hard to find out, Tiffany. I didn't know anything
Okay.
about usury laws and stuff before I started all of this, and I was like, how do you find that out? And I was like, all right,
Yeah.
Dr. Google, Professor Google, okay, what did you?
Right.
Yeah, I use Chat GPT. It's an AI language model. I ask Chat GPT a lot of questions that instead of me searching around the internet, I get a lot of answers. So
Okay.
pretty cool stuff. Yeah, thank you for your question.
And Stacy, I don't know if this is the appropriate time to ask this question, so if you have it covered later on, just say Shane waits. People.
Mhm.
You talked about you're also a broker.
Mhm.
Can you explain what that relationship looks like compared to your private money lending side, and when do you broker other people's money, so to speak, right? Or
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. I mean, I wear a lot of different hats. I guess I have done private money for so long. I wanted to learn really a lot about it. So I invested in an equity fund, and I started learning about brokerage. I didn't even know it existed, to be honest, until a couple of years ago. And basically, if my money does not work for them, or people can't find private money, which happens, there are lenders out there that I have formed relationships with over time, and that I can find rates or the most appropriate lender for somebody. So I will utilize myself as a liaison for finding money for them in some capacity, whatever they need. Some lenders, especially new construction loans, a lot of PMLs don't do new construction or land. You might need a hard money lender in order to do that. I have a relationship with a few lenders that I really prefer to work with. The reasons are I know that they close. I trust their transparency in lending. I know what their closing costs are up front. I know their process, and they close on time. I really trust them. I learned a lot from my own private money practices from working with them in order to be a better lender for myself. So yeah, and I process loans for people that flip 15 houses a month. They don't have to worry about it. They just come to me and they say, hey, I need some money. They send me the contract. All their paperwork is already in with the lender. I process the loan. It's just done. So they know with me, they can get their money in 7 days. That's the end of that. They don't have to blink. So I work with people with volume. I save them time so they can go out and make more money. So they use me as a liaison. And I'm also an equity partner. I have access to funding through some equity partners that I've made relationships with. So I equity partner with people that don't have money. They don't have the EDM. They don't have the close. They don't have the gap money. They don't have the down payment. I equity partner with them and I JV with them and teach them a little bit in terms of how to work a process. They're the boots on the ground. I'm the money part. Win-win for everybody. And then they get one under their belt using me as their equity partner and also as their JV. So we'll do 4 of them together, and then they're kind of off and running. So it's a really great situation. And then I have a partner that I've worked with for years that I met like that.
we're seeing on the new construction side of things, a lot of the requirements for experience have gone up. So you're trying to find a loan to build a home on a lot, but you've never done it before. You don't have a track record to show. Even if you built houses for other people, if your name is on the title, they won't count it. We've talked about having a builder come on it and do an equity partnership with people so that they get that first construction in their name as a JV partner. I haven't done it yet, but it's on my to-do list. I think that's a great idea.
The way that I did it first is a JV'd with a general contractor. They had all the experience that I needed that got me my first experience with them. It was an amazing experience, really great. And I JV'd with them and they were my construction experience. So it worked. But I mean, there are contractors out there that will do that with you. They want to make some extra money. There are some lenders that will work with first time people if you have a track record of flips or rehab. They will do it. They will do it. They maybe over 5 to 8 is kind of what they're looking for. Successful and closed on a HUD statement. So that is kind of their requirements. They just want to see, do you know what you're doing, and can you work through a new construction loan? But yeah, JV, like you said, JV with builders or JV with GCs, a great way to break into that. Or find somebody in your network. Hey, is there anyone out here who wants to equity partner with me who's done new construction? If you're in the REAN network, there are quite a few people who have done this that are more than willing to talk to you about how to do this. They're very, very generous with their time and also their partnership. Yeah, okay. Last slide is just about having partners to have a smooth funding and closing. I create a circle of wealth and influence around me in order to have great partners. So it makes my life very easy when I am a private money lender. The number one is a title agency, making sure they are investor friendly, making sure they know what a sub 2 is and a wrap is, make sure that they understand investor terms. If you're a wholesaler, if you're a signer, or if you're just a PML, make sure that they understand how that works. I love title agencies that have real estate attorneys or attorneys in-house on staff. They can help you craft your documents for very little money, very, very inexpensively. If you've never done a promissory note or a joint venture contract, if they're a title agency that's investor friendly, they have the documentation kind of already boilerplated there because they've done it a million times. So they will work and craft it. And the first one that I did, my joint venture agreement was $300 worth every penny because it was tight, and I learned from that, and I took it and I used it as a template. My promissory notes that I used, I created with an attorney. It just made sense to me. I will pay people for their education because an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure in my book. So I'm happy to invest in other people's expertise. So if you are not a title agency state, if you're a real estate attorney state, your attorney can also do this because they're going to facilitate the closing anyway. So they can also write these documents with you, and they're more than happy and very much have it as a boilerplate template, and it's inexpensive to do. Make sure, please, you do a title search on the house. Please don't ever close with a quit claim deed. Please get a general warranty deed. Please make sure it is free and clear of liens. Please, 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 please promise me you will never close without a title agency, and you will never, never, ever close with a clouded title with liens on it. No good.
What a mess that can be.
Yeah, it's a mess. Make sure on your promissory notes, please make sure that you do not use one from the internet that you just write off that don't have clear consequences for default. A lot of these boilerplate promissory notes that I have seen just say, if the loan is in default, there is a small fee, $50 or a certain percentage of the loan. It doesn't talk about what happens if they don't pay you. You have to wait till the loan seasons, and a lot of the consequences of it, there's nothing there. I definitely put in all of my promissory notes a phrase that says, in lieu of foreclosure, I get the keys. So basically, there are terms, if they miss, and I'm pretty strict, if they miss 2 payments, I try to work with them to see why. If they miss it because of mismanagement of funds, it is clearly in my contract. After 2 payments, I take the keys. In lieu of foreclosure is in all of my contracts. I make sure I point it out to them before we even go near title. I just want to make sure that they know that I am a serious lender and I am not messing around. Because guess what? A hard money lender, after 2 payments that you miss, they're going to try to get their money from you, but then they're just going to come and get your keys. So I shouldn't be any different than them. Please make sure you are first lien only. Please, 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 please don't be a second lien for rehab. If the project goes underwater, you will never get your money back. Never. Please don't do that. Please also only take collateral on the project that you are working on. Please try not to take collateral on another house that's not closed in the LLC. It is a mess to try to get that money back. I have seen it happen, and it is a disaster. So please only get a secured asset-based loan on the asset you are loaning on. Don't collateralize or cross-collateralize unless you are very comfortable with the idea of cross-collateralization. If you don't know what that is, look it up. I don't touch it. That's for the big banks. I'm not a big bank. Also, in your JV agreement, make sure you're clear instructions on roles and responsibilities of your members. If you decide to do second lien and you say, Stace, I've been doing second lien forever, I got no problems. And I say, hey man, that's awesome. That's great, go for it. Please make sure in your JV, you're going to write in there how you share your losses, not just your gains, because that is going to be a mitigating risk factor for you. So there's no arguments with JVs. I hear them all the time. People don't put that in there. Things go underwater, then they argue about the losses and how to do it. Just put it in writing. It's easy. I make sure I put fraud language. I have a form that I make my borrowers fill out that says, if you falsify documentation, if I find out that you have done anything to monkey around or do anything fraudulent, I get the case. I end the loan. I call the loan right there. I don't get the case. I call the loan. They have to pay me back immediately. We do not deal with fraud. I have really severe consequences for it. And I make sure I had an attorney write up that document. I did not do it myself. I already went over, I don't extend loans past, I try not to extend them past 12 months. If someone needs another month, okay, but then I have to go and write a whole nother contract again and a whole promissory amendment, and then I need to get it recorded, and it's just a pain. I just try not to do that for me, my business model. I don't prefer it. If they say it's a really big project, it's heavy rehab. I just did a loan a few months ago, and it was a heavy rehab down where we live. I did it for 24 months. I don't want to deal with it. So I just, instead of extending it, I just said, okay, she said 12 months, I gave it to her for 24. Usury laws we touched on, please go, and lending laws, go figure out what they are in your state. Call, verify, everything that I said to you. Don't trust me, trust the people that are in charge. And that's about it. That's all she wrote. Any other questions? Oh my gosh, it's almost 9:30. Okay. Well, wow, this is like the fastest 90 minutes. Yeah, to wrap it up in the next few minutes, does anyone have anything to offer? Or I so appreciate everybody being here.
We appreciate you being here.
Oh, thank you. This is awesome.
Super, super awesome.
No, thanks. I love this is I really appreciate the amazing network of people that I get to work with every day. So yeah, bring on the questions.
While people are typing questions, I'm just
In
going
the chat.
you talked
Okay.
about gap lending. Do you do gap lending? And why or why not?
Can you specify what gap
Lending is,
lending
would be-
means in your question? Because some people think what something different than gap lending, what I look at. Are we talking about the gap lending in the bridge loan? Are we talking about it in gap meaning I don't have enough for the down payment? What does gap mean to you in this question?
Yeah, and I guess that every project's a little different, right?
Yeah. What are we
In my
gapping?
scenario,
Yeah, what are we
that I
gapping?
was thinking, it was purchasing of a rental property, for example, and they're going to go out, they're going to get institutional money
Mhm.
for 75% loan to value, for example. They want to bring on an equity partner who has all or at least or a chunk of the 25% that's missing. Try to bring the rest of the funds to close.
Yeah. Again, it depends on your comfort and your risk of mitigation. And if you want to be an equity partner, if you're just giving them the money, I require participation from my borrowers in terms of them coming to the table with some money. So if they're like, I got a hard money loan, but I need to, fill in the gap of the down payment. And I say to them, well, if I'm going to be an equity partner, then I'm going to take some of the profit from the project, right? That's an equity partner. In general, I don't like to loan gap money. I kind of go back to if you want to lend money, if you want to borrow money, you have to have some money to put down. And if you don't have it, go find it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't do it it just, for me, it's a little more risky than I want to deal with in a lending space. But you might feel differently. You might say no. Also, if you don't have a lot of money to lend, if let's say you have 50,000 or less, that might be a great opportunity for you, as long as you're vetting your deal, to feel really comfortable to say, I don't have the whole amount, but I have some. So that could be actually a great opportunity for you to do things with somebody else, or joint venture with people and come together.
Mm.
Yeah. Any other questions? I see lots of thank yous. Thank you to everybody too. Thanks for staying up. It's 9:30 by me.
So Stacy, are you also a property buyer?
Uh-huh.
Are you buying?
Yeah. The other part of my company is that I'm an investor as well.
So where are you buying at? How can we help you?
Oh, you're so lovely. Well, I live in Florida now, so this is my backyard. I always say keep it simple. So buying in my backyard, but I'm also in equity partnerships with people all over the country because I very much believe in trying to give people a start in this industry. And so that is I think just a role that I really enjoy, and I'm making money and they're making money, and so everyone's happy. So yeah, I love equity partnering everywhere. I have access to amazing funding. Money is not is my best friend. I love money. I'm comfortable with it. I love to talk about it. I love to give it to people. I love to get it. So I feel like money is the most renewable resource on the planet. And just that money is a good thing. And if I have more money, I can give it to other people. I can tithe, I can donate, I can be in charitable positions and help people if I have the money. So
You have the money, then you can change the world.
exactly. And yeah, I really want to encourage people to go into this lending space with information and logic and for them to make deals that they're not going to walk away and go, oh, I shoulda, coulda. Yeah, and you're welcome to email me if you have any questions. I consult with people's deals all the time. People utilize my services and I help them work their deal to make sure that they vet them. They hire me for a lot of different functions in the money lending space.
Stacy, we really greatly appreciate you.
Thank you. You guys are amazing.
Brought in, I appreciate that. We will reach out to you. We're gonna see if we can't do some deals somewhere along the line.
Of course.
You're an amazing person. Love what you do. Thank you so much.
You too, Shane.
Any
Cindy.
questions for you, Stacy? Anyone?
These people are change makers. Shane and Cindy, I haven't been in this network for very long, only 3 months, but I just have they're so inspiring to me. They are changing not only their lives, but the lives of many people. So they are definitely givers as well. So they're quite inspirational. Do what they do.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. But
And again, an hour and a half will by just like that.
I know. I'm like amazed. I can talk for a nerd out. I love being nerdy. So yeah, but thank you everybody. Have a beautiful evening and please keep my email, Stacy@homeassetexperts.com. You can look me up online and find me and yeah, reach out.
All right. Thank you so
Good night,
much.
everybody. Thank you.
Have a great night.
Good night.
Bye.